And let me begin by thanking you not just for obviously being here tonight, but for the work that many of you have done over the years. One of the crises that we face in our country is that too many people are detached from the political process. And what you are doing by getting involved, by standing up to fight for a better America, to fight for justice for working people and people of color and minorities and gay people and those people who are not getting their voices heard, you are showing your love of this country and your patriotism, and I thank you very much for that. Now, I'm running for President of the United States not because I woke up or that I believe when I was a little kid or grew up in a home where they said, Bernie, you're going to become President of the United States. Not quite. I grew up in a 3.5-room rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Family didn't have, all right, there we go. I'm running for president because I think, frankly, that given the enormous crises facing our country, crises like a grotesque level of income and wealth inequality, in which the top 0.1% now own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Crises in which our people today, millions of them, are working not one job, but 2 or 3 jobs, and yet 58% of all new income is going to the top 1%. A crisis in which millions of our young people are graduating college deeply in debt, and hundreds of thousands of others can't afford to go to college at a time when we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. A crisis in which we have a corrupt campaign finance system which, as a result of Citizens United, allows super PACs and the billionaires and Wall Street that fund those super PACs to buy elections. Democracy is not a complicated concept. It is one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. And then to add insult to injury, not only do we have these super PACs undermining American democracy, we have governors like Scott Walker trying to suppress the vote. Now, if you want to know what kind of president I will be, think about all of the things that Governor Walker does, and I will do exactly the opposite. You know, one of the things that I have discovered in this campaign is that there are a lot of people, including conservatives, who believe strongly in the principles of democracy. We can argue amongst each other, but at the end of the day, one person, one vote, majority rules. I have absolute contempt. I have friends who are conservatives, and we disagree on the issues, and that's fine. But I have contempt, absolute contempt, for those Republican governors who do not have the guts to support free, open, and fair elections. I've run for office in the state of Vermont a number of occasions. I've lost and I've won. But it has never once occurred to me to try to figure out how I could deny people in my state the right to vote because they disagree with me. So I say to Governor Walker and all of the other Republican governors who are trying to make it harder for poor people and old people and people of color and young people, trying to make it harder for them to participate in the political process, I say to them, if you don't have the guts to participate in a free and fair election, get out of politics and get another job. Now, Governor Walker thinks it's a great idea to try to destroy the trade union movement. I think it's a great idea to try to build a stronger trade union movement. So let me tell Governor Walker and all the rest that if I'm elected president, we are going to pass an Employee Free Choice Act, which will make it easier for workers to negotiate contracts and form a union. Governor Walker apparently feels it is a great idea to give tax breaks to large corporations and then cut education. Well, I think it is a better idea to increase funding for education and demand that the large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. Governor Walker thinks it is a good idea to try to make it as hard as possible for women to control their own bodies. I believe that women have the right to control their own bodies, and we will take on the Scott Walkers of the world who are restricting that right. And by the way, we're also going to pass pay equity so women don't make 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Governors and senators and virtually all Republican public officials are denying the science of climate change. And that is a very scary and dangerous proposition. It is hard to run a government. It is hard to do serious public policy if you reject science. Now, I am a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment. I have talked to scientists all over the world. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity, and climate change is already doing devastating harm throughout our country and throughout the world, and this problem will only get much worse in years to come if we do not transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. The time is now to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. In America today, we are living, as you all know, in a highly competitive global economy. And yet, in Wisconsin and throughout this country, our public school systems are in deep distress. We have a child care and pre-K system which is literally dysfunctional. Mom is going to work, dad is going to work. People cannot find quality, affordable child care. And when you talk about crazy, of which we are talking a lot about in this campaign, every psychologist who studies the issue understands that the most important years of human development are 0 through 4. And yet, when mom and dad go to work, as often as not, the people who are taking care of their kids are getting paid McDonald's wages. This is not what America should be about, and it should not be the way we treat our children. We need a revolution in early childhood education. People who work with those kids should be well-trained, well-educated, and well-paid. Now, all of you are aware that when our Republican friends talk about family values, you know what they are talking about. And what they are saying is that no woman in this room, in this state, in this country should have the right to control her own body. What they are saying is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to get married. I disagree. Now, you've met Jane. Jane and I have been married for 27 years. We are blessed with 4 great kids and 7 beautiful grandchildren. We believe in family and family values, but our values are a little bit different than the Republicans. Our values dictate to us that we end the international embarrassment of the United States of America being the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave. There are women today giving birth in Wisconsin and in Vermont, all over this country. And if they are working class women, if they are low income women, in many cases, they are going to have to go back to work in 2 or 3 weeks and separate themselves from their beautiful new babies. That is not a family value. That is the opposite of a family value. And if elected president, we will pass the very good legislation that Democrats are now supporting in the House and in the Senate, and that is 12 weeks paid family and medical leave. There is one country, one wealthy industrialized country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people, and you are living in that country. And I think it is time we change that. Now, I've been criticized for saying this by various establishment media and others. So let me repeat it. So there is no misunderstanding, no equivocation. I believe that health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. I am a member of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, and Labor. That committee helped write the Affordable Care Act, and I am very grateful for President Obama's leadership in making sure that excellent legislation was passed. What that legislation did was end this obscenity called pre-existing conditions. It ended the discrimination against women in terms of the price they paid for health premiums. It added over 17 million Americans to the ranks of the insured. It provided health insurance for young people to be on their parents' programs. All of that is very good. We should be proud of that accomplishment. But we should not forget that despite the gains of the ACA, 29 million Americans today still have no health insurance. Many of you have health insurance, but you are underinsured with large deductibles and copayments. And every day in this country, we are being ripped off in an unconscionable way by the drug companies who are charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You want to talk about crazy? Crazy is 1 out of 5 Americans getting prescriptions from their doctors and not being able to afford those prescriptions. Crazy is senior citizens dividing their pills in half because they don't have the money to buy the medicine they need. And that is why, in my view, at a time when this country, don't tell me that health care, don't talk about the cost of health care without understanding that in our country we are spending far more per capita on health care than are the people of any other country. We spend almost 3 times more than the British do, 50% more than the French, far more than the Canadians. And that is why I believe that we must move toward a Medicare for all single-payer program. Now, Secretary Clinton and I disagree on many issues, but on one issue we surely do not disagree, nor do I think does anybody in this room disagree. And that is, we have got to do everything in our power to make sure that Donald Trump or some other Republican does not become President of the United States. On that issue, we are all united. And let me just say this, and I say this as honestly and as straightforwardly as I can. I happen to believe, based on all of the polling that I have seen and on other factors, that I am the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump. And I say this with no disrespect to Secretary Clinton or anybody else, but in virtually every poll that I have seen, and I know polls go up and down, last CNN poll had Bernie Sanders defeating Donald Trump nationally by 20 points. A significantly higher margin than Secretary Clinton. Last poll, done just a week ago or so here in Wisconsin, had us beating Donald Trump in this battleground state by 19 points. A higher margin than Secretary Clinton. But it's not just polling. Here is a fact. Some of you will agree and some of you may not agree. And I know that there are people here who strongly support Secretary Clinton, and I respect that. But here is, I think, an objective assessment of what's going on. There is one campaign which has created an enormous amount of excitement and enthusiasm, and that is our campaign. And what I am very proud of, let me just say this, what I am very proud of, some of you may agree with me or like it, some of you may not, but for the Democratic Party to succeed, we need a vibrancy, and we need an energy, and we need a level of grassroots activism that we do not have at this moment. And what that means is we need to bring in millions of young people who have never voted in their lives, and I am proud that many of those young people are coming into our campaign. And if you were to go to some of the rallies that we have held around the country, where you have 10, 15, 20, 25,000 people coming out, and you look at the eyes of those young people and their spirit and their love for this country and their desire to improve this country, you would have enormous confidence in the future of our country. And I am enormously proud, not only that we have created that kind of energy and grassroots enthusiasm, but that we have revolutionized campaign financing in the United States of America. I don't have a super PAC. I don't get money from Wall Street or anybody else, and I'm proud of that. We have received over 6 million individual campaign contributions, averaging $27 apiece. And in my view, if I may be so bold, and I know not everybody here will agree with me, I believe that is the future of the Democratic Party. I believe that we have got to tell Wall Street and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and all of the big money interests, sorry, we are not on your side. We don't want your money. So let me conclude in the way I began, and that in this country today, and in fact in this world, we have a series of very, very serious crises. I wish that I could tell you that the same old establishment politics and establishment economics could solve those problems. I just don't believe that. What I believe right now is, like every other great movement in American history, the trade union movement, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the gay movement. What we need right now is a movement of millions of people to stand up, fight back, and demand a government that represents all of us and not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors. Thank you all very much.